So I recently did a couple of videos on the 529 plans, and one of those was which is the best plan for 2023, and that's changed over time. But for me right now, it was the Florida 529 plan. Well, I started getting some comments on that saying that people were going to try and open up the Florida 529 plan, but they couldn't because they're not a Florida resident. Well, I did a couple of more 529 plan videos, and I started getting some more questions on, well, if I'm not a Florida resident, what else should I use? And I was using some other plans, so I thought, these are great plans. You could use the Ohio plan or the Utah plan, both plans that I'm currently also using in addition to the Florida 529 plan. But then I got a question of, well, is there a workaround? If I really want to use this plan, is there any other way that I can do it? Can I get a friend to open it up? So I got to thinking, I don't know. It doesn't sound like you can, but I don't know if that's necessarily a workaround. So I wanted to do a little investigating. So I first went to the Florida 529 plan website, and let me show you what I found. So here they have the FAQ section, and it says, who can open a Florida 529 savings plan? And they say that a Florida 529 savings plan can be opened by any individual 18 years of age or older that is a U.S. resident or legal U.S. resident with a valid Social Security number. So I thought, okay, well, that means that anybody could, right? Well, not exactly. So down here it says, do I have to be a Florida resident? And they say the child or his or her parent or legal guardian must be a Florida resident for the past 12 months. Well, it didn't say anything about the 529 savings plan. So I wanted to clarify that it wasn't the Florida prepaid plan, which is a different type of 529 plan, but they do reference the Florida 529 in this FAQ. So I reached out here on the chat, and this is what they said. So I asked exactly the same question, and they said, yes, the Florida residency is a requirement to enroll in a 529 savings plan. So I said, if I'm a Florida resident, but the beneficiary is in another state, can I open the 529 and contribute with them as the beneficiary? So that answer was yes. So if you or the child are in the state of Florida for 12 months, then you're eligible to do it. And then I asked if I open up a 529 plan with me as a beneficiary and later change it to an out-of-state beneficiary, and I'm still not the parent, can I do that? Well, that you can't do because that means the parent or the beneficiary, meaning the child, neither of them are in the state of Florida, and they're going to verify it. So then I said, so anyone that leaves Florida, and this is the question I had because I'm in the state of Florida, what happens if I take my plan and leave, of course, with my kids? What would happen then? Could I still use the plan, or would I have to basically transfer it to another 529 plan? And that answer was, I was correct in my thinking that if someone enrolls in a plan and then moves, they would only be able to change the beneficiary to someone who is a Florida resident at the time of transfer. But moving out of Florida doesn't cancel the plan. Contributions can still be made, and the beneficiary can still use the plan later on. So you can use the plan. There really is no workaround. If you're an out-of-state resident, your kid isn't in the state of Florida, you're not in the state of Florida, it's a no-go in terms of that. You can't have a friend open it up and then transfer it to you. They won't do it because they're like, who's the beneficiary? Even if you made the beneficiary yourself and you're the friend, there's no way to transfer it. You'd literally have to use this 529 plan for the entire time that you're saving, meaning that if you're the parent, you're going to basically give somebody your money, and a lot of things could happen in between. So that's a terrible idea. So then I just wanted to compare the funds because these things are moving in the same direction. A lot of them have the same funds now. In fact, all three of the plans, Florida, Ohio, and Utah, all have the exact same fund that I'm using, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund. So they call them different things and they have different tickers for them. But when you dig in, they're all exactly the same. So then I said, you know what? If they're all the same, let's take a look at those fees and really see how they compare. So I ran a little bit of a fee analysis here, and here's how I did it. So I compared the ridiculously low fee for the Florida 529 plan. The reason it's so low is they don't charge a management fee. So it's only the fund expense ratio of 2 basis points. That's 2% of 1%. That is a super small amount. And then I compared it to the Ohio and the Utah plan. Now, just to be fair, the Ohio plan was 0.145 and the Utah plan was 0.15. So I just made it 0.15 just to show you this comparison and the impact. So what we're looking at here is a monthly savings of $200 over 10 years at a 10% rate of return. So I printed it out monthly. So that first monthly contribution plus a partial gain and a small little fee, you can see it's literally 1 penny difference here. That is the fee. So small that it doesn't even show up in this column. So small. So we did that for both of the funds with that fee going all the way down. And here's basically the result. I drew it up on the board for you. So in Fund 1 or the Florida 529 plan, the total fees over that 10-year period would equal $156.88. Now, these are all projections, so I'm assuming exactly a 10% rate of return. So obviously it's not going to be exactly this amount, even if you did the exact same plan, because you're not going to get a steady 10%, but it's pretty darn close. So $156.88. Fund 2, which was the Ohio plan and the Utah plan, kind of give you an idea, it's at $1,164.51. And then I wanted to figure out, well, what are the differences in the actual amounts that you would walk away with? So in the Florida plan, you'd have $120,833. In the other two plans, the Utah plan and the Ohio plan, it would be $119,028. That's a difference of $1,805.05. Now, I don't want to discount any sort of a fee, right? If this is money that you can put back in your pocket, all the better. But to just kind of put this into reality, because this is over a 10-year period, if we take this amount and we kind of start today and say, you know what, how much do I need to invest today to get to this amount? It's $52 one time. So if you take $52, contribute it to the account into the Ohio or the Utah plan, you'd have the same amount. So it's not a huge sum of money in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, again, every penny counts, but that's what it would be. Or the other number I calculated was you can contribute an additional $8.74 per month over that 10-year period. Of course, those numbers would get further apart the longer that we go. So if you started saving when your child was just born up until they're age 18, obviously those numbers are going to be further apart. That means you would have more savings using the Florida 529 plan. Of course, the third option here is to move to the state of Florida, but it'll probably cost you more than that to move to the state of Florida, so probably not worth it. So the last thing I want to share with you is I graphed it out here, and it was so close. You can barely see the difference in these two plans. You have at the very end that $119,028, and then for that first one, you have that $120,833. So here's my 2 cents on 529 plans. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd use a 529 plan, the answer would be no. But they've come a long way since then, where the investments have improved, the fees have come down, and the flexibility has increased a lot. We can now use it for K through 12, we can use it to pay down student loans, and if there's money left over, your beneficiary can roll some of that into a Roth IRA. So the point is, don't get too hung up on the small details of one 529 plan versus another. Save early and save often. And if you have any questions on this stuff, let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.